Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to take a deep breath and ask yourself, how many times have you gone out of your way to be nice, only to be ignored, disrespected, or taken for granted? How many times have you given endless chances, hoping that your kindness would change someone? How many times have you put yourself second just to keep the peace? If you're tired of feeling unappreciated, tired of being the one who always gives, and tired of waiting for people to finally see your worth, then this message is for you. Being nice is not the problem. Expecting that niceness will bring you the love and respect you deserve, that is the problem. The world does not reward those who shrink themselves to please others. It rewards those who stand tall, who demand respect, and who know their own worth. So today I'm not telling you to be cruel, I'm telling you to be bold, fearless, and unapologetically you. If you're ready to stop feeling powerless and start reclaiming your strength, stay with me. Because by the end of this speech, you will walk away with something far more powerful than just kindness. You will walk away with self-respect. The illusion of niceness is something that many people, especially women, have been conditioned to believe in since childhood. From an early age, we are taught that being nice, agreeable, and accommodating is the key to maintaining relationships, earning respect, and being valued. We are told that kindness will be reciprocated, that patience will be rewarded, and that if we just keep giving, eventually we will receive the same in return. But the harsh reality is that the world does not operate that way. The more we give without limits, the more people take without gratitude. The more we tolerate disrespect in the name of keeping the peace, the more we teach others that our boundaries don't matter. Being nice in itself is not a flaw. It is a beautiful quality to have. But when it is given without discernment, it becomes a weakness that people exploit. When a person consistently prioritizes others over themselves, always says yes to avoid conflict, and remains silent in moments where they should speak up, they become easy to manipulate. There is a difference between being kind and being a doormat. And that difference lies in knowing when to give and when to hold back, when to be patient and when to walk away, when to compromise and when to demand better. Niceness, when it is rooted in fear, does not earn respect. It does not make people love you more. Instead, it creates a power imbalance where one person keeps giving and the other keeps taking. When you prioritize being nice over standing up for yourself, you allow others to control the narrative of your life. You silence your own needs in favor of theirs. You become a person who is there for everyone but yourself. And the moment you stop serving their needs, you realize how quickly they disappear. Too often, women are made to feel guilty for putting themselves first. Society tells them that their value comes from how much they nurture, how much they sacrifice, and how much they endure. But endurance should not come at the cost of self-respect. If you continue to believe that being nice will eventually make someone see your worth, you will spend your life waiting for validation that may never come. The truth is, people do not appreciate what is always available to them without effort. They do not value what is easily given. Think about the times when you were too forgiving. The times when you let things slide because you didn't want to seem difficult. The times when you stayed silent when you should have spoken up. Did being nice change anything? Did it make people respect you more? Did it stop them from taking you for granted? Or did it only teach them that they could keep crossing the same lines without consequence? People only treat you the way you allow them to. If you show them that there are no consequences for their actions, they will continue to test your limits. If you continue to give without requiring anything in return, they will never feel the need to step up. If you keep prioritizing others while neglecting yourself, you will always be the one left feeling empty. It is time to unlearn the idea that being overly nice is a virtue. It is time to stop believing that being agreeable will earn you the respect you deserve. People respect strength. They respect those who know their worth and refuse to settle for less. They respect those who have the courage to walk away from situations that no longer serve them. Being nice should never come at the cost of your dignity. There is nothing wrong with kindness, but kindness should never be blind. It should never be given to those who repeatedly take advantage of it. It should never be an excuse to accept less than you deserve. The moment you stop being nice in a way that allows others to exploit you is the moment you take back control. The moment you start setting boundaries, demanding respect, and valuing yourself is the moment you stop being taken for granted. It is not about being rude or unkind. It is about knowing when to stop giving to those who do not deserve it. It is about recognizing that you are not obligated to keep proving your worth to people who refuse to see it. It is about understanding that self-respect is more important than approval. If you want to be truly valued, you must stop equating niceness with love. Love is not about constantly sacrificing yourself. Love is about mutual respect, effort, and appreciation. And anyone who only values you when you are giving and accommodating is someone who never truly valued you at all. Many people mistake niceness for strength, believing that if they are just patient enough, forgiving enough, or understanding enough, they can change the way others treat them. But the truth is, being overly nice does not make you strong, it makes you predictable. And predictability makes you easy to manipulate. When people know that you will always say yes, that you will always be available, that you will always forgive, they stop valuing what you bring to the table. Think about the times you have been in situations where you wanted to say no but felt pressured to say yes. The times you agreed to things that made you uncomfortable just to avoid disappointing someone. The times you tolerated words or actions that hurt you because you didn't want to seem difficult. Did any of those moments bring you the happiness or fulfillment you were hoping for? Or did they only leave you feeling drained and unappreciated? When you constantly prioritize being nice over being honest, you lose yourself in the process. You begin to live according to what others want instead of what you truly need. You silence your voice to keep the peace, but that peace is not real. It is an illusion built on suppressing your own needs and desires. And the more you shrink yourself to fit into other people's expectations, the more you forget who you are. Being too nice can become a cage, a self-imposed prison where you are always putting others first, always considering their needs above your own, always trying to be what they expect you to be. And the saddest part is that many people do not even notice or appreciate the effort you put in. They simply assume that this is who you are, that your kindness comes without conditions, that you will always be there no matter how they treat you. But what happens when you stop? What happens when you finally say no? When you finally demand the respect you deserve? When you finally start prioritizing yourself? That is when you see people's true colors. The ones who valued you for your endless giving will suddenly call you selfish. The ones who were used to taking from you without giving anything in return will say you have changed. They will call you difficult. They will call you arrogant. They will call you ungrateful. Not because you have done anything wrong, but because they can no longer control you. This is why it is so important to recognize the difference between kindness and self-sacrifice. You can be kind without allowing others to walk all over you. You can be compassionate without allowing yourself to be used. True kindness does not mean giving without limits. It means giving in a way that does not compromise your own well-being. Many people do not realize that they are being taken advantage of until it is too late. They keep giving and giving, hoping that one day their kindness will be acknowledged, that one day the people they have been so good to will finally see their worth. But life does not work that way. The more you allow people to take advantage of your niceness, the more they will assume that you do not value yourself enough to demand better. The reality is that people respect those who set boundaries. They respect those who are not afraid to say no, those who refuse to tolerate disrespect, those who know their own worth. If you want to be respected, you must first respect yourself. And self-respect begins with recognizing that not everyone deserves access to your kindness. There is a difference between being a good person and being a people pleaser. A good person acts with integrity, kindness, and honesty. A people pleaser, on the other hand, sacrifices their own needs and happiness just to keep others happy. And the sad truth is that no matter how much you try to please everyone, there will always be people who take advantage of your efforts. You must understand that you are not responsible for how others feel when you enforce your boundaries. You are not responsible for their disappointment when you say no. You are not responsible for their frustration when you refuse to be manipulated. Their reaction to your self-respect is their problem, not yours. When you stop being overly nice and start prioritizing yourself, you will lose some people. You will disappoint those who were only in your life because they benefited from your inability to say no. But you will also gain something far more valuable. You will gain real relationships based on mutual respect and appreciation. You will gain confidence in yourself and your decisions. You will gain freedom from the exhausting need to always be liked. People who truly value you will not leave just because you stop bending over backward for them. They will not disappear just because you start putting yourself first. They will respect your boundaries. They will appreciate your honesty. And they will stand by you, not because of what you can do for them, but because of who you are. There comes a moment in life when you have to ask yourself a difficult question. Are you living for yourself, or are you living for the approval of others? Too often, people confuse kindness with obligation. They believe that being nice means always saying yes, always making sacrifices, always putting others first, even at the expense of their own happiness. But the truth is, no one is entitled to your kindness. No one has the right to expect you to always be available, always accommodating, always willing to bend over backward just to keep the peace. And yet, so many people find themselves trapped in this cycle, afraid that if they stop being nice, they will lose the people around them. Think about how many times you have done something you didn't want to do just to avoid disappointing someone. How many times you have ignored your own feelings because you were too worried about how others would perceive you. How many times you have stayed in situations that were unhealthy, toxic, or draining because you felt guilty about walking away? This is what happens when you place the happiness of others above your own, when you believe that being a good person means never putting yourself first. But let me ask you this, what do you get in return? Does the world reward your kindness? Do people value you more because of your endless sacrifices? Or do they simply take it for granted, assuming that you will always be there, no matter how they treat you? One of the hardest lessons you will ever learn is that not everyone deserves access to you. Not everyone deserves your time, your effort, or your kindness. There are people who will take until you have nothing left to give, and they will still ask for more. There are people who only appreciate you when you are useful to them, who only respect you when you are meeting their needs, who only care about you as long as you are making their lives easier. And the moment you stop, the moment you finally say no, the moment you start prioritizing yourself, those same people will be the first to turn their backs on you. The problem is that many people are afraid of losing others. They believe that if they stop being nice, they will be abandoned, disliked, or judged. But here's the truth, anyone who only stays in your life because of what they can get from you was never truly there for you to begin with. Real relationships, whether they are friendships, romantic relationships, or professional connections, are built on mutual respect, not one-sided sacrifice. If someone only values you when you are giving, they do not truly value you at all. Respect is not something you can beg for, negotiate, or buy with kindness. It is something you demand by the way you carry yourself, the way you set your boundaries, the way you refuse to tolerate anything less than what you deserve. The moment you stop prioritizing other people's comfort over your own self-respect, you will see a shift in the way people treat you. Some will walk away, unable to accept that they can no longer manipulate you, but others, the ones who truly see you, who truly appreciate you, will remain. And those are the people who are worth your time and energy. Many people stay in unhealthy situations because they are afraid of confrontation. They do not want to be seen as rude, selfish, or difficult. But let me ask you this, when was the last time someone worried about how their actions affected you? When was the last time someone put your feelings above their own? If the answer is rarely or never, then why do you feel the need to do the same for them? Why do you continue to prioritize people who would not do the same for you? The reality is the only person responsible for protecting your happiness, your peace, and your well-being is you. No one else will do it for you. It is not selfish to say no. It is not cruel to walk away from people who drain you. It is not wrong to prioritize your own happiness. The people who truly love you, who truly respect you, will understand this. They will not punish you for having boundaries. They will not guilt-trip you for choosing yourself. They will not disappear just because you stop allowing them to take advantage of you. And if they do, then they were never meant to be in your life in the first place. There is a common belief that in order to be loved, you must be agreeable. That in order to be accepted, you must never challenge, never demand, never expect more. But real love does not come from blind obedience. Real respect is not earned by always saying yes. If you want to be valued, you must first value yourself. If you want to be respected, you must first show the world that you refuse to be treated as anything less than you deserve. Too often people worry about being liked, but they do not worry about being respected. They believe that if they are nice enough, people will appreciate them, but appreciation without respect is meaningless. You can be liked and still be taken for granted. You can be admired and still be disrespected. But when you are respected, when people know that you will not tolerate mistreatment, when they understand that you will walk away the moment they cross your boundaries, that is when you become truly powerful. Being a kind person does not mean being weak. It does not mean allowing yourself to be a doormat. It does not mean tolerating things that make you unhappy just to keep the peace. It means knowing your worth and refusing to settle for anything less. It means surrounding yourself with people who value you for who you are, not for what you can give them. It means choosing yourself even when the world tries to tell you that you shouldn't. Life has a way of teaching us lessons, not always in the gentlest manner, but in the most necessary ways. One of the hardest lessons we must learn is that people will treat us based on the standards we set for ourselves. If you allow yourself to be a stepping stone, people will step on you. If you allow your kindness to be exploited, people will exploit you. If you allow yourself to be available at the expense of your own well-being, people will take you for granted. But let me ask you something. When was the last time you stopped and asked yourself what you truly deserve? When was the last time you evaluated the relationships in your life and questioned whether they were built on mutual respect or just convenience? Too often, People mistake their ability to endure mistreatment as a sign of strength. They think that if they just keep giving, keep sacrificing, keep being the bigger person, things will eventually change. But the truth is, people do not change simply because you wish them to. They do not suddenly wake up and appreciate you just because you have tolerated their mistreatment for so long. If anything, the longer you allow someone to take advantage of you, the more entitled they feel to continue doing so. The world does not reward self-sacrifice. It rewards self-respect. The world does not hand out prizes for being the most accommodating, the most patient, or the most forgiving. It respects those who demand to be treated with dignity. And yet, many people are afraid of enforcing their worth. They are afraid of saying no, afraid of setting boundaries, afraid of upsetting others. But let me tell you something, if your presence in someone's life is dependent on how much you tolerate from them, then you are not valued. You are being used. Think about all the times you have excused someone's behavior because you didn't want to create conflict. Think about the times you have smiled when you wanted to speak, stayed when you wanted to leave, or agreed when your heart screamed no. Ask yourself in those moments, did being nice serve you? Or did it just enable someone else to keep taking advantage of you? The harsh reality is every time you ignore your intuition, every time you silence your needs, every time you put someone else's comfort above your own dignity, you are teaching them that it is okay to treat you that way. Many people worry about what will happen if they start setting boundaries. They fear they will be seen as rude, difficult, or unkind. But let me ask you, is being seen as nice worth your happiness? Is it worth your mental peace? Because here's the truth, people who genuinely care about you will respect your boundaries. They will not be offended when you say no. They will not punish you for choosing yourself. They will not walk away just because you refuse to be a doormat. And if they do, if someone resents you for enforcing your worth, then they were never in your life for the right reasons to begin with. The most powerful thing you can do in life is refuse to be anyone's second choice. Refuse to be the person people only come to when they need something. Refuse to be the friend who is always available, but never prioritized. Refuse to be the partner who is always forgiving, but never valued. You were not placed on this earth to be convenient for others. You were not meant to be drained, exhausted, and left empty just so others can thrive. Your existence is not measured by how much you can give until there's nothing left of you. There is a difference between kindness and self-sacrifice. There is a difference between being a good person and being a people pleaser. Being a good person means acting with integrity, treating others with respect, and standing firm in your values. It does not mean betraying yourself just to avoid disappointing others. It does not mean carrying relationships that only exist because of your effort. It does not mean being everything for everyone while receiving nothing in return. The people who truly matter in your life are the ones who love you for who you are, not for what you can do for them. They are the ones who do not require your constant sacrifice to prove your worth. They do not guilt-trip you into staying in situations that drain you. They do not punish you for wanting more, for demanding better, for choosing yourself. Real relationships, whether friendships, family bonds, or romantic connections, do not require you to diminish yourself. They do not require you to shrink, to suppress, to silence yourself for the sake of keeping the peace. Many people struggle with the idea of letting go. They fear that if they start enforcing their worth, they will end up alone. But let me tell you this, being alone with your self-respect is far better than being surrounded by people who do not value you. Loneliness is not found in solitude. It is found in the presence of those who make you feel invisible. It is found in relationships that make you question your worth, friendships that make you feel like an option, and connections that leave you feeling drained rather than fulfilled. Every time you choose yourself, you reinforce your value. Every time you walk away from something that does not serve you, you show the world that you know your worth. Every time you say no to something that does not align with your happiness, you set a standard for how you deserve to be treated. And that, more than anything, will change the way people see you. Because people do not respect those who are endlessly available, who are always agreeable, who never demand more. They respect those who have the courage to walk away, to say no, to refuse anything less than they deserve. You cannot change how people treat you, but you can change what you tolerate. You cannot control how others behave, but you can control how you respond. And the moment you stop allowing yourself to be a convenience, the moment you stop making yourself small to fit into other people's expectations, the moment you stop apologizing for knowing your worth, you will see who truly belongs in your life. When you constantly put others before yourself, when you make yourself available at all times, when you go out of your way to please, something happens. People start expecting it. They begin to see your kindness not as something to be valued, but as something they are entitled to. You see, the world does not reward self-sacrifice, it rewards self-respect. And yet, Many of us hesitate to demand the respect we deserve because we are afraid. Afraid of losing people, afraid of being misunderstood, afraid of being seen as selfish. But what is the price of this fear? How much of yourself will you keep giving until there is nothing left? Think about how many times you have silenced yourself to keep the peace. How often have you swallowed your words, buried your emotions, and convinced yourself that your needs do not matter? You tell yourself that if you just keep giving, if you just keep compromising, if you just keep being patient, then maybe, just maybe, people will start appreciating you. But here's the truth: people do not appreciate what they take for granted. They do not respect what they think will always be there. The more you allow yourself to be used, the less they will value you. Respect is not something you beg for, it is something you demand. And you do not demand it through words, you demand it through action. It is in the way you carry yourself, in the way you set boundaries, in the way you refuse to tolerate anything less than what you deserve. And yet, so many people hesitate to enforce their worth because they believe that by doing so, they will push others away. But let me ask you, if someone walks away from you just because you refuse to be a doormat, did you really lose anything? There is a dangerous belief that being nice, being overly accommodating, and always saying yes is what makes someone valuable. But that is a lie. You do not earn love by being endlessly available. You do not earn respect by tolerating mistreatment. You do not earn loyalty by sacrificing your own happiness. The moment you start prioritizing yourself, the moment you stop bending over backward to please everyone, you will see who truly values you. Because the people who genuinely care for you will not be offended when you set boundaries. They will not leave when you say no. They will not punish you for choosing yourself. The ones who get angry when you start demanding respect were the ones benefiting from your lack of it. Think about that for a moment. The ones who guilt trip you, who make you feel bad for putting yourself first, who say you've changed, those are the ones who were comfortable with your silence. They were comfortable with you always agreeing, always compromising, always making things easy for them. And now that you are no longer willing to do that, they resent you. But is that really love? Is that really friendship? Is that the kind of connection you deserve? Too often people convince themselves that they need to be needed. They believe that their worth is measured by how much they can give to others. But let me tell you something: you are not valuable because of what you can do for others. You are valuable because of who you are. And if someone only keeps you around because of what you provide, then they do not truly value you. They value what they can gain from you. Have you ever noticed how some people only show up when they need something? How they disappear when you need them, but the moment they are in trouble, they expect you to be there. That is not a relationship, that is a transaction. And the moment you stop being the one who always gives, the one who always fixes, the one who always carries the burden, you will see their true colors. Some people will leave. Some will get angry. Some will try to manipulate you back into your old patterns. And that is when you must stand firm, because the only people who belong in your life are the ones who respect you when you choose yourself. The idea that you must always be the giver, the helper, the one who holds everything together is exhausting. And it is not your duty. You are not responsible for making everyone happy. You are not responsible for being the emotional caretaker for people who do not reciprocate that same energy. You are not responsible for maintaining one-sided relationships. Your worth is not defined by how much you can endure. You do not have to prove yourself through suffering. You do not have to keep tolerating, keep waiting, keep hoping that one day people will wake up and appreciate you. Appreciation does not come from being endlessly available. It comes from knowing when to walk away. The people who truly love you will not love you because of what you can do for them. They will love you for who you are. And those are the people who deserve your time, your energy, and your presence. But for as long as you continue allowing yourself to be taken for granted, for as long as you keep giving without receiving, for as long as you tolerate mistreatment, you will keep attracting the wrong people, and you will keep feeling exhausted, drained, and unseen. There is nothing noble about being a martyr in your own life. There is nothing admirable about allowing yourself to be used. True kindness is not about sacrificing yourself. It is about knowing your worth and standing firm in it. It is about giving from a place of abundance, not depletion. It is about making sure that the people in your life add to your happiness, not just take from it. So ask yourself, who are you really being nice for? Are you being kind because it is who you are, or are you being nice because you are afraid of what will happen if you are not? Are you being accommodating because you genuinely want to, or because you fear that saying no will make people leave? Because the truth is, the people who truly matter will not leave just because you enforce your worth. The ones who belong in your life will respect you when you demand better, and the ones who get upset when you do. They were never truly there for you to begin with. Every time you prioritize someone else's comfort over your own, every time you silence yourself to avoid conflict, every time you ignore your own needs to keep someone happy, you are sending a message. You are telling the world that you do not matter as much as everyone else, that your feelings are secondary, that your happiness is negotiable. And over time, this message is not just something others believe, it is something you begin to believe yourself. You start to think that your worth is tied to how much you can give, how much you can endure, how much you can tolerate. But let me ask you, when did you decide that you deserve less? When did you start believing that in order to be loved, you must make yourself small? The world teaches us that being nice is a virtue, that selflessness is something to be admired. And yes, kindness is beautiful, but there is a difference between being kind and being a people pleaser. Kindness comes from a place of strength, from knowing your value and choosing to give without losing yourself in the process. But being a people pleaser, that comes from fear. Fear of rejection, fear of abandonment, fear of not being enough. And when you operate from fear, you allow others to dictate your worth. You become so focused on making others happy that you forget to ask yourself, am I happy? Think about all the times you have said yes when you wanted to say no. All the times you have gone out of your way to help someone who would not do the same for you. All the times you have held back your true thoughts, swallowed your opinions, played small just to avoid making someone else uncomfortable. And now think about what it cost you. The energy you wasted, the stress you endured, the resentment you buried deep inside. And for what? Did it make them respect you more? Did it make them appreciate you? Or did it just make them expect more from you while giving you less in return? You see, people will take as much as you allow. They will keep pushing, keep expecting, keep demanding until you decide that enough is enough. Until you realize that you are not obligated to make yourself miserable just to keep others comfortable. Until you understand that love, real love, does not require you to sacrifice your own well-being. The people who truly care about you will not ask you to betray yourself. They will not guilt-trip you for setting boundaries. They will not disappear the moment you stop bending over backward for them. But the ones who were only there because they benefited from your silence, the ones who thrived on your inability to say no, they will get angry. They will call you selfish. They will say you have changed. And they will try to pull you back into your old patterns, not because they love you, but because they loved how easy you made their lives. And this is where you must make a choice. Do you keep living for others, constantly putting yourself last, constantly draining yourself just to keep everyone else satisfied? Or do you finally start living for yourself? Do you finally decide that your peace, your happiness, your time is just as valuable as everyone else's? Because the moment you stop being a people pleaser, the moment you start prioritizing yourself, everything changes. You start to see who truly values you and who only valued what you could do for them. You start to understand that your worth is not tied to how much you can give. You start to realize that you do not have to prove yourself through self-sacrifice. And yet, so many people struggle with this. They feel guilty for saying no. They feel responsible for how others react. But here is something you need to understand. You are not responsible for other people's feelings. You are not responsible for their expectations. You are not responsible for fixing everything, for always being the one to compromise, for always being the one to keep the peace. If someone gets upset because you chose yourself, that is not your burden to carry. Their disappointment does not mean you did something wrong. It just means they expected you to keep putting them first, and now that you are no longer willing to do that, they do not know how to handle it. And this is where you must stand firm. Because when you start setting boundaries, when you start valuing yourself, there will be resistance. There will be people who test you, who try to make you feel bad, who tell you that you have changed. But change is not a bad thing. Growth is not a bad thing. Outgrowing toxic patterns is not a bad thing. You are not the problem for wanting respect. You are not the problem for demanding more. You are not the problem for refusing to settle for less than you deserve. But the only way people will treat you differently is if you show them that you will no longer tolerate being treated the same way. That means no more explaining yourself to those who refuse to understand. No more apologizing for putting yourself first. No more saying yes just to avoid conflict. No more allowing guilt to dictate your decisions. You do not need anyone's permission to choose yourself. You do not need validation to stand in your own power. You do not need to keep proving your worth to people who were never willing to see it in the first place. And here's the thing, when you start living this way, something incredible happens. The wrong people leave, and the right people stay. The ones who only wanted to use you will disappear, and the ones who truly love you will celebrate your growth. Because real love does not ask you to shrink yourself. Real love does not punish you for setting boundaries. Real love does not disappear the moment you stop overextending yourself. So ask yourself, what kind of life do you want to live? A life where you are constantly drained, constantly giving, constantly neglecting yourself just to keep others happy? Or a life where you are respected, valued, and surrounded by people who appreciate you not for what you can do for them, but for who you are? The choice is yours. But one thing is certain. If you keep allowing yourself to be treated as an option, you will never be seen as a priority. If you keep sacrificing yourself for people who would never do the same for you, you will never find the happiness you deserve. If you keep playing small, you will never experience the fullness of life that comes from standing in your power.